You're listening to Fire Ecology Chats, a podcast series by the Association for Fire Ecology.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bob Keane. I am the editor-in-chief of the internationally renowned journal Fire Ecology. I want to welcome you all today to this version of Fire Ecology Chats, where we're going to talk about a really cool paper that was written. I am a big proponent of the fact that fire and the soil biota work together to really form our ecosystems today. And we're going to hear about a paper that actually talks about that. The name of the paper is Wildfire Impact on Soil Fungi Associated to Nothofagus Forests from Central-Western Patagonia, Argentina. And today we have María Salgado Salomón here. María, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Bob. Really nice to meet with you. Yes, my name is María Salgado Salomón. I'm a forester and I have a PhD in mycology and forest ecology. This paper you nicely introduce me and my collaborators, especially one which is Carolina Arguiano, my PhD student. So yeah, I'm work for ICET, which is the Council of Science of Argentina, and I work in a forest research center in Patagonia, in West Patagonia, which is called CFA.
Well, thank you very much for coming and joining our Fire Ecology Chats. Why don't you tell us a little about your paper?
The paper is about what happened when a fire occurs in Nothofagus forest, considering all the ectomycorrhizal, the fungal soil in the forest. The forest is not only the trees, but a lot of living species are in the soil. So we study the soil knowing that it's quite important for the forest development. So actually it's really important to have a healthy soil to have a healthy forest. So we study that. And the paper deals with that. We study 5 sites, almost 80,000 hectares. It's a really large city. I live in a province which is called Chubut, which is really large. So we study a lot of forests along these provinces. So we were looking for recent forests and we were just studying the soil in this forest. And of course, we compare with sites that have not been affected by fire. So we deal with that. And it is quite interesting because we found out mostly that the forest changed and that's because of the soil change.
So it's not often that people do studies with fire and fungi and so on. Why did you do the study? What possessed you to go ahead and write or implement the study?
I have been working on native forests the last 20 years. I started like a really young student. And I always wonder what's happened in these sites because, fire is a really huge problem here in Patagonia, especially in Chubut provinces. We have more than 80 fires a year, fortunately in summertime. Unfortunately now it's starting the fire season, we call it, and we lost a lot of hectares of forest every single year. And actually, unfortunately, I have to say it too, it's an anthropic situation. It's caused by the hand of the human. The 90% of the fires is because someone did something wrong or paid not attention to the fire. So we have a lot of problems. So I started at the beginning to wondering what is going on here. As I told you, I have a PhD in ecology, so I started to think about it. And then my PhD was working on soils and fungi and these things. And I say, okay, if we don't have a healthy soil after the fire, or the soil is not really nice, or they lost much of the diversity, we are going to have problem with forests coming back. So of course, I thought in that moment when I started to think this is a lot of work, I need help. And fortunately, I get PhD student and we start slowly with that. We also went when her PhD, so other subject, but this was something like we were really interested because it's the major problem for one of the forests here in Patagonia.
Very interesting. How nice that you got a graduate student interested in that. Is there anything special about the methods you want to talk about?
Yes, it's quite interesting because, of course, we are working with soil. So we study the soil, like a chemical, physical properties, but we also study the biology of the soil. So we were using environmental DNA and we were using next generation method for the DNA in the soil and have seen forests after a really extreme fire, like the one we have here in summer. So it's almost nothing. Virtually, you see all black and nothing else. You have some small trees, but then all black and all dead. Of course, we cannot look for something really living, so we need to see the fire in the soil. So this technology allowed us to look for those living things which are waiting for the plants in the soil. And of course, we first think about mycorrhiza, which is our forests need ectomycorrhiza, so they are really important. This technology allows us also study all fungi. So say, okay, it's not only about these which are really important, but all the functions you have in a forest. You have the one who take care of the rubbish, like the trash. Those which are saprotroph, you have the ones who reduce the populations like pathogens. You have the beneficiaries like endo and ecto and ectomycorrhizal. And of course, you have the ones who are food for other animals and plants.
Right.
So you need all of them to have a really nice forest, a really healthy forest. So this technology allowed us to explore all those things and see what happened after a fire.
So you found that after the fire, there were a lot of changes, and the changes were both good and bad, I would assume. So what were the implications of those changes for managing the land?
I think, first of all, we need to understand that the fire changed the soil. It's not the same. We are not having data yet to say, well, maybe in 20 or 15 years it's going to be more or less the same. But after the fire, it's not the same. So we need to work and improve the plans we are going to take to this site. Because, of course, if we want to recover actively the forest, we need to manage with the inoculation. And that is work for managers. If you are going to cast seedling into the forest, be sure that the soil is good, is healthy, have mycorrhiza, and have all the forest needs. So this is the first thing. Then here in Argentina, there is some laws that protects the areas which were burned. So you cannot change the use if it was a forest. Like if a forest get burned, like you know, can put there a building. You have to make a forest again. So it's necessary like spend time, the forest come back alone, or you need to spend money that help the forest come. So our data also say, well, you know, the forest is going to need a bit of help. Fortunately, you lost the richness and some species which are really important. And also, if you don't know, the forest has a lot of non-good products. So this like edible mushrooms, edible plants, those things also need to come back together forest. And these small products also are important because here in Argentina are used for small farmers or a small community or single mom women help their economy. So these also have to take in account because those are really sensitive and they are lost. So we have to work together with this information for make the forest a better place, but also recover all the rich which hide most of the time. We don't know the most of the time all the rich and all the beautiful things that you have there.
Sure. What a wonderful study, and I want to thank you for publishing it in Fire Ecology and coming and talking to us today. Do you have any people you want to recognize, co-authors or funding agencies?
I want to really recognize the work of the licenciada Carolina Arguiano, la doctora Carolina Barrotaveña, y la doctora Melanie Roy, which are working with us a lot. We were all together from the study to thinking about how to do the study, but also to go into the field trips and of course doing all the lab work and writing together. So it was really four heads thinking about this and how to make it better. And of course, you already know this is impossible without the funding agency. We have a PCT, Grupo Información, which is from the National Agency of Promoción de Research, Technology and Development. And we also have a regional program, which is called Climate Suit 2021. And that's our international joint project between France, Argentina, Colombia, Chile, and Peru. The International Emergency Action Rising, which is Resilient in Action, which is for the climatic change interaction and ecotourisms, which is also from France. So we receive a lot of help for this, and we are really thankful. This was done by 3 institutes, actually. Of course, our here in Esquel, Provincia del Chubut in Argentina, but also Mendoza and one in France. We also work in the University of Toulouse and Centro de IFAESI, which means a really long name in Spanish, but means Climatic Change Agency here in Argentina. So this is a joint group or something so complex like the impact of fire in the soil and in the forest. We need a lot of thinking together.
Well, I'll tell you what, Fire Ecology publishes abstracts in Spanish. And so I'd like to give you a minute to speak in Spanish to our Spanish-speaking colleagues about your study.
Of course, yes, my pleasure. Bueno, vamos de nuevo en español entonces. Muchas gracias, mi nombre es María Salgado Salomón, soy investigadora del CONICET en CIEFAP, Esquel, provincia del Chubut, Argentina. y les vengo a contar un poco sobre el paper que estamos trabajando con mi estudiante Carolina Arguiano y que tiene que ver con el cuidado del suelo y la sanidad del suelo en los bosques de Nothofagus después de un fuego. Sí, la provincia del Chubut está afectada por muchísimo fuego, hemos muestrado más de 480.000 hectáreas a lo largo de un gradiente de más de 300 kilómetros y en ese lugar hemos estudiado fuegos recientes y ver qué le pasa a ese suelo. Hemos usado tecnología de punta de última generación con el ADN ambiental, porque por si no lo saben, después de un fuego de distintas características en los bosques de Nothofagus, básicamente queda nada, algún palo quemado y ya, pero después se ve todo negro y quemado. Entonces, bueno, por supuesto, usamos tecnología de última generación que nos permite estudiar no solo las micorrizas, que fue nuestro primer objetivo, sino toda la comunidad fúngica asociada a estos sitios. Y por supuesto los comparamos con sitios cercanos no quemados. Entonces, bueno, encontramos que se pierde la riqueza, quedan algunas especies que son candidatas para la regeneración, pero se pierden un montón de riquezas y de abundancias de hongos y de especies fúngicas que son importantísimas para el desarrollo del bosque. Por lo tanto, es súper importante cuidar esta biodiversidad para tener un bosque saludable y que todas las funciones del bosque vuelvan. Principalmente algunas especies de hongos comestibles, pensando en productos forestales no madereros, que sostienen aquí en Chubut economías de pequeños pobladores rurales y madres solteras que sostienen la economía con la recolección de estos productos. Entonces, bueno, es necesario abordar todo esto, incluso pensando en las leyes que ya existen y pensando en todo lo que tiene que ver con el manejo de las plazas a llevar para restaurar estos sitios, pensarlo desde la necesidad de inocular y de reintroducir especies que sean las mismas que se encontraban en esos sitios. Así que este paper aporta también todo ese conocimiento.
Thank you, Maria, so much for the wonderful time you spent talking about your paper. Really appreciate it. If you want to look at this paper, guess what? Maria has already paid for you to look at it. It's available for free at the Fire Ecology website. So please download it, read this wonderful paper. And again, thank you, Maria, for joining us. And everyone, join us again for the next Fire Ecology Chats.
Thank you for listening to Fire Ecology Chats, a podcast series by the Association for Fire Ecology. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to our show and leave us a review. To learn more about fire ecology and support our future work by becoming a member, visit fireecology.org. FIREECOLOGY.org.